Hello. I'll be instructing today from the Hindu tradition, an introduction to Hinduism and to its sacred tradition by Bithika Mukerji, Chapter 2, The Dimension of the Sacred. Now, I'll try to point out some major points. Hindus use the term Satchidananda, reality, consciousness, bliss, to express their idea of God. God is reality. He is of the nature of consciousness, that is, not non-dynamic and not non-spiritual, and is fulfillment itself, without a trace of shortcoming. His perfection overflows with auspicious qualities. Possible not to refer to Brahman, the ultimate reality or God in Hinduism, and talk about the sacred. But as I've said before, I take a very modern approach and a very practical one. It said, one important statement concerning chapter 2 is in the back of the book. Kind of a summation. From the scripture, a man may have a conception of Brahman as existence, consciousness, and bliss, but he cannot have a direct knowledge of Brahman unless Brahman is recognized as the inner witness, but he cannot have a direct knowledge of Brahman unless Brahman is recognized as the inner witness in his own personality. Swami's Swahananda translation. I've spoken a lot. Written a lot about what is the witness self. Well, let's take a modern view, shall we? A modern view would see that witness self as your imagination, the ability to imagine yourself outside of your life and the course of it, your timeline. It is a position in which there is no time. You're outside experiencing and providing yet an interface with that. I would say that the witness self is an interface with that. I would say that the witness self is an interface between the ultimate reality, defined in neurology as ultimate reality, the ultimate reality, the reality that is filtered through our survivally evolved brains. And so we see things and experience things isn't literally accurate. The brain is processing things in a chemical and electric kind of a way. And so actually isn't giving you a message that's literally, like in the case of your vision, there's no blue, no red, nor green. That is how we perceive the spectrum of light that we see. things not important to our survival, that spectrum, we don't see. We see what's important to us, important to our survival. Now, when it's talking about the sacred as eternity, knowledge, and bliss, which is another way of stating what it said, the reality, consciousness, and bliss. The reality is that there's no time. So in the ultimate reality, there's no time. It's beyond time. And so one way of expressing that reality is to call it eternal. Consciousness, that's knowledge. That's how we perceive things with our brain. That filters the ultimate reality, which is Brahman. That filters the ultimate reality, which is Brahman. The ultimate reality all around us. To survive, and so forth, in our lives to do so. These three elements of the sacred, eternity, knowledge, and bliss, relate to the three dialogues that I talk about. As I've already said, the witness self rests in eternity. It is outside of our timeline, our perception of time. It imagines the time we're in, which is the closest we're going to get. And that filter, that witness self, is a filter, like the brain, of ultimate reality. And as it said here, you can't have knowledge of Brahman and greater appreciation of that ultimate reality. You have the knowledge that it is the ability to imagine, the creative part of us. And from that imagine, the creative part of us, that is the virtue, the other major virtue that I cite frequently, the perspective we take when we empathize. All of these things get us outside of our ego and to some degree, our usual comfort zone. These things are the way that we get our needs met. Using these things are the way that we get our needs met. Let's see. Now, one unique thing in Hinduism is the idea that we have something called an Ishta Devata. Here's page 17. This dimension of a personal attachment to God as father, mother, child, beloved, master, or friend explains the meaning of the phrase Ishta Devata. Ishta may be translated the particular image of God that in different religions promote ideal personhood in a variety of ways. And that's an important thing. Jesus is much more about empathy. That's the emphasis there. In Buddhism, the Buddha image is more about Krishna, their ideal person, is God at play, enjoying everything. He's playing around. He's having a good time, So creativity gets you outside of yourself, expands your sense of self. But so does objectivity, so does empathy. And also, the practice of these things helps with our virtues. That's the connection here to Satchidananda, the dimension of the sacred. Let's see. It's said here that the whole of Hindu sacred literature, then, is absorbed in answering these questions. Why should man seek God or ultimate reality? Why should he be required to turn away from the world in order to find him who is the creator of this world? And how is this turning around equated with bliss itself? Well, a modern view, a rational view. Remember, art is the ability to appreciate the beauty in all things. If you're in that position, you're in bliss. And enough said about that. Interacting with that, of course, is a blissful experience. Being in that mode and interacting in that mode with that, between your dramatic self and that creativity, means that you're dancing in heaven. You're interfacing between a heavenly or transcendent view, that emphasizes bliss, and your daily experiences within the timeline is from the present looking into the future, and empathy, which helps us to is objectivity, which helps deal with anxieties from the present looking into the past. Empathy is all about relationships, things, and our feelings deeply to what has happened to us. Therefore, I say the past. In other words, you're into your feelings through empathy. You relive them. In the case of a memory, you are within them. When you're using objectivity, no, you're outside. You refer to your feelings, things in the past, as in the past, and as something separate from you, something you can talk about. Does it remind you of anything in psychology? Hear a lot of reference to when we're talking about the use of paying attention to things that are painful can help your endorphin system to react. And it gives you a little separation from the pain and gets you out of a fear response, which is something they use in helping ladies giving birth, to separate the pain from the fear, which makes it worse. So if you pay attention intently to the sensations in your body, you can find good results. And it's a way of loving yourself, caring about yourself, transcending, being more conscious. Now, another, and that's one part of yoga. That's one of the basic Vedic yogas. It's dhyana. Now, and different ways of doing, this kind of that kind of meditation, but I endorse in my practice paying attention to sensations in your body. Yeah. Those things are in a sense, more within you, and less likely to have a meaning outside of you on their own. I don't know, there are people that argue with that, but to some degree. Now, there are two other basic Vedic yogas. Another one is mantra. Well, mantra yoga is about sound. You can repeat a phrase over and over again until it's meaningless. That's what happens. And you get outside of the boundaries of language, which puts you in touch with who you are without language, which is who you were as an infant. And it is a way of caring about yourself. Many religious experiences tap into this in a variety of ways, and that's important to recognize. These different ways can be done in a rational kind of way. And I think that's the best way to do that. Without preconceived conceptions. In fact, no belief system is absolutely necessary for these practices. These practices transcend all beliefs because it's about your own survival perspectives, your ability to be aware of yourself and to care about yourself. And that helps you to care about others. The use of sound, can be done that way. It can be done, you hear in music, music gets you outside of language if it's purely instrumental. The phraseology, I just use making up sounds and singing them or stating them. That can get you outside of language to kind of tricks the mind out of it. And mantra yoga that I use in mantra yoga is very important. Now, the use of breath, or prana yoga, is a way of using your breath to get in touch with your feelings. And in my system, right? So, to you, so anyway, down to your left, see little you and talk. Very easy thing to start with. Meditation. Well, there are people who are trained in various ways to do that. To a limited degree, in the learning of the practice, some help can be given. But ultimately, if you're dealing with a mental illness, contact your local psychiatrist. And so this is it's like exercise. It's something good for your health, usually. But as we, check it out first, and see how it feels to you, and see if there's any objections to your particular situation in doing this. Maybe there's another way for you. As the Buddha said, a person can say, I have a way, but nobody can say, I have a way, I have the only way. So, with all friendliness intended, and with an encouragement